Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're super excited. We are taking on a worthwhile endeavor at Life Success and Legacy. Our intention is to honor Nelson Nash, the man, as well as the infinite banking concept. We're going to create a series of resources, including podcast and text, as a resource for others who want to truly understand with depth and clarity what Nelson shared in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, as well as the many seminars and think tanks that we were fortunate to have attended during his life. So who is this intended audience? Well, we will use Nelson Nash's own words. It is written for the layman, not for financial advisors, but all life agents should be thoroughly knowledgeable of its content and practice. So whether you are an individual, part of a family, a business owner, or a life insurance agent, this is for you. So sit back, relax, and we will walk you through becoming your own banker step by step so you can reference the parts you want to revisit at your own pace. And we might have a little fun along the way.
Hey, welcome back to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. My name's Chris Bay. I'm part of the team at Life Success and Legacy, and I'm joined by the founder and almighty one, Michael K. Everett.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Everett?
I'm doing super good. Actually, my dog slept till 6:20 this morning. I thought it was noon.
Yeah.
That's a deal right there. He is 4 months old now. So
hey, has the using Otto as a chew toy stopped?
It's kind of coming and going right now, so
Okay.
It's not an issue. I think Otto has realized that he's much faster than the puppy, so he can maneuver around pretty quick. I mean, he's pretty agile. So, but Otto is finally realizing he's much tougher than he thinks that he is. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Otto's a 3.5, almost 4-year-old miniature schnauzer, and he's at best 10.5 pounds.
Right.
Well, the puppy is 4 months old and a strong 15 right now. And the paws, the paws aren't quite the size of my hand, but they're darn close.
Yeah. Your pet food bill is going to increase dramatically.
It already has.
Yeah.
It already has. Oh, well.
And we got Michael Crawford in the background who makes all this stuff happen. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate your work as always.
Yep.
He's the one we probably ought to have on here talking instead of me. He's got a lot more interesting stuff to say, I'm sure. All right. Well, for our listeners, thanks for joining us. We always recommend people, if you don't have a copy of Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. You can get one of those off of our website, lifesuccesslegacy.com. Mine is beat up. I got pages falling out. At some point, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and
me and you both
do something.
Let's not forget about the case for IBC and the new book written by Chris Bay, Family Banking with Purpose. Woo. Those are also available. Look at this.
Look at that.
Turn that thing around. Turn that thing around. This is the fun part. Oh, look at that stud.
Shout out.
That is so funny. That's so funny because you have a jacket on. You have a jacket on.
I never wear a jacket.
We never wear jackets, by the way.
Ever. Yeah, that was shout out to Christina Jonas for doing the photography on that.
There we go.
That was like several years ago. I still had my old glasses on.
Fun.
Yeah, and just to explain this book again, it's not to replace by any means Nelson's book. Heck no. That's where you need to start, is Nelson's book. But this book is it's more of a parable. It's a story about a family who creates multi-generational banking system. You will not find any numbers, you will not find charts, graphs, anything like that. It is really about, as Nelson says, he says, this exercise in imagination, this is an exercise in imagination, reason, logic, and prophecy. This book is about imagination. For those that
totally is
love the idea of creating a family banking, and it is short. I mean, you can read it in less than an hour and a half. 69 pages. Yeah, you can blow through that pretty quickly. So check it out. We should have the Audible coming out in the beginning of October. People can keep an eye out for that. It's available on our Family Banking with Purpose website, and then also where all things are available, Amazon. Okay.
All things.
All things are available. So we are on page 63 for our listeners who are following along. Tim O, shout out to Tim O. Tim emailed us this week, and he's getting ready to set up his system. And he said, hey, man, I like that you guys talked about backdating, and I'm in a position where that can be beneficial. He says, I just heard that on your last podcast. So somebody out there is listening, Everett.
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, up in Ohio, too. This is going to be perfect for the conversation that I had with him last Friday.
Yeah.
So this is totally awesome when people are invested in listening to, well, number one, you and me, but number two, as we are digging in and diving into some of the things that are going on in Nelson's book, people are paying attention to some of the details.
Yeah.
And Chris in Ohio, dude, he is a detailed guy.
He is. He has
He
good questions.
He scares me. I truly believe that he scares me.
I can relate to Chris. He reminds me of myself when I was researching and getting started and just wanting to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just that desire to really understand and even understand at a level that may not even necessarily apply to my situation, but just because it's fascinating and it's a different way of thinking, you know, some people are just learners like that.
That's right.
Okay, so we're on page 63, the addendum. Nelson added this since the initial publication of the book because people had concerns with the figures he was using in the equipment financing, primarily the dividend scale, okay? And he was using a scale from back in 2000. And as people were reading the book, they're like, well, dividend scales aren't what they were then and all that. So Mike, just language is important. Vocabulary is important. Can you describe for our listeners what is a dividend in the context of a life insurance company?
Okay, so dividends are really nothing more than a return of premium. And if you go and you look in the IRS coding, I'm telling you, it says that dividends in life insurance are nothing more than a return of premium. So try to put this in your thinking cap for 1 second. When we get a life insurance policy, we pay premiums for the product. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But dividends are a return of that premium. So that means at the end of the year, when the company has showed a profit, what they do is they return back some of the premiums that you've already paid. Now, for some of the people listening right now, this is going to make a whole lot of sense. For some of the people that are listening, they could be upset with some of the things that I'm getting ready to say.
What? You poking the bear? No way.
Okay. So return of premium. I'm all about the dividends being returned to us because the way we design the policy is we use the dividend to buy paid up addition insurance, which adds to the base, which increases the dividend. And over time, these things expand greatly. But you go to some of the larger companies. So think of some of the larger companies, and I'm not going to say their names.
Wow, that was really good, Mike Everett.
I'm going to tell you that is really difficult for me to not actually throw them under the bus.
You like to hear that bump when you drive over.
Oh, buddy. So here's the deal. Great big companies, they are always touting their dividends. So if you go to their websites and you go to talk to some of their salespeople, they're going to go, but our dividends are X. And when they're coming and they're giving you a I don't care if it's a 4, a 5, a 10% return on the dividend. Stop right there. They are returning premium to you, whether it's a little company, a middle company, a big company. They're just returning the premium that you have already paid. So these giant companies, what they do is, forgive me to some of our listeners, because you could be an agent with one of these companies. They're overcharging you for the product on the front end and then turning around and returning some of that overcharged premium. And then what they're doing is putting their chest out and saying, gosh, we're giving you a gigantic dividend, and this is our rate of return that we're giving to you for the overcharged premium.
And just to add in that, the reason that they would do that is because as we talk about the tractor tracks in our brain, right? That are the way we've been taught to think over the last several decades is it's all about rates of return and it's about investments.
Yep.
And so life insurance companies aren't stupid. They're like, okay, if this is how people are thinking, we're going to play by those rules.
Yep.
So we're going to go out there and we're going to quote rates of return. And so then they start getting into IULs and all these other things that are tied to the market and tied to rates of return. And that's why Nelson goes back to some simple things. And we have to provide these types of policies to our clients if they ask for an IBC policy, which that's all we do.
Yep.
It's got to be a whole life policy, and it's got to be done with a mutual company, which means mutual is like a co-op, and those dividends are returned to us, the policy owners.
That's it.
So what you're saying is the engineers inside the life insurance company over-engineer, they overcharge, they over-engineer just to cover their margin, and they go out and they invest in things like bonds, which are not exciting, but they are consistent and increase. And then when they make money, a profit, which they always do, they then return part of that profit or part of that overcharged premium back to the policy owner. It is a return of premium, it is a dividend, and it is not taxable. Have I got that right?
Yeah, 100%. But here's the crazy thing. These insurance companies have been doing this for more than 100 years. They absolutely know what they're doing. But when Nelson wrote the book in 2000, dividends were at a premium. They had high dividends. But what's happened to the market since 2000? We are in the tank. Interest rates are down, dividends are down. But the bottom line is, if you are stuck on rates of return and dividends,
missing the point.
You have completely missed what Nelson Nash has taught in his book.
Yeah, your policy is not an investment. Go back to page 3. This book is not about investments of any kind. It is not about rates of return. It's not about interest rates. And he says this. He says, it is true that dividend scales of most companies are down, and that will diminish the results. He says, but you're missing the main point of why I created creating your own banking system. It is a system that consists of many life insurance policies, and the number of years that each policy is capitalized must increase when interest rates go down if you're going to expect similar results as those depicted, which is principle number 2, right?
Don't be afraid to capitalize.
Your system generously. Don't be afraid to capitalize, right?
That's it.
If you want a little out of your system, put a little in. If you want a lot out of your system, put a lot in.
It is, right? It is really awesome.
So in this second paragraph here, he says interest rates are a function of the market, and depending on economic philosophies and such, some people think, hey, you ought to let the market be free and let those interest rates go up and down. And in some cases, the Fed manipulates those interest rates, which we've experienced recently. And so we know that if interest rates go down, that you're going to have to put lots more money into the bond, right? If interest rates go up, You don't have to put as much money in the bond to get as much. And the same thing applies with our IBC policies and the dividends.
It's really that simple.
Yep. Okay. So Mike, now what Nelson does, and I'm down at the last paragraph on the first column, looking at illustration 6. What Nelson did is he did an updated version of the illustration he used in the equipment financing. And he's comparing illustration 2 and illustration 6, which is a new illustration.
Yep.
You want to jump into that and talk about what he does there and why?
Well, the reason why he did that is because interest rates were way down. That means that dividends were way down. Mm-hmm. And really, if we go back to just exactly what you said just a moment ago, if interest rates are down, you got to pay more capital. It can't be any simpler than that. So the bottom line is what Nelson did was he updated this later on to show that he needed to actually put more money in. So if you, and I'm just really going to go to the illustration. Oh, here, I've got to go to illustration 6. I'm sitting here looking at 5 because it's across the page. So if you go to, I'm going to go to illustration 2 real quick.
Okay.
Illustration 2, he puts 40,000 in, and there's 157,363 in cash value. There's
he does that for 4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
So he's put 160 grand in. Keep in mind, interest rates are great and dividends are great when he did this in 99 and 2000. Mm-hmm. But then he starts the financing process in year 5. Now, there's no way for us to really determine because he actually takes 52,600 out in year 5. But if we looked at year 6, so I'm going to go to year 6, and he's already started the process. He's got 155,945 in cash value. I'm going to go back and go to year 6 on illustration 6. Illustration 2, there's 155,945. He starts the financing process and there's 180,630. So there's $25,000 to $30,000 more inside the policy, even with the financing that has started. He had in year 4, it was $1.7 million, but he has 1.684 over here. And then he has way more death benefit, even, I mean, it's life insurance, but yet the bottom line is he utilized the system and capitalized this. By the way, there was more death benefit available in the newer policy, the newer illustration, because more was going to buy the base death benefit inside the policy, even though the premiums were exactly the same. And why is that? Because in 99 and 2000, people were dying quicker, younger than they are in today's market because people are living longer, they're taking better care of themselves. So all of this actually illustrates what the actuaries know in these home offices of these giant life insurance companies.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare 2 and 6, at the bottom when he's looking at, like years 37 through 55, and he's starting to pull out passive income.
Yep.
It's the same in both of those. He had that variable held constant. But then if you look at the net cash value when he's age 84, there is
2.84 million.
Yeah, and there was less in illustration 2, and the death benefit is more in illustration 6 as well. And the only difference is he just capitalized 1 extra year.
That's it. He dumped 40,000 extra in, but that's $300,000 difference.
Yeah.
I'm going, that's a no-brainer.
Well, one of our friends, Mike Wong, he always gets so frustrated with people who don't get started, because he's like, it's not this year that you're missing out on, it's the end year.
It's down the road.
And that is significant, the difference when you look down the road. So, okay. Where in the world are we? Let me get back here. Okay, so yes, Nelson points out that the results are considerably better. And then, he could even finance even more equipment and improve on it. And then
right.
he says, I hope this calms people's fears, right? About the validity of the infinite banking concept. And again, that's folks who are missing his point. It's not about the interest rates and rates of return. Can
Right.
those things improve the system? Yes, but
Absolutely.
that's not what it's about. Okay. And he does highlight here, he says, your behavior in managing the system is the most important factor in the entire equation. I'm going to give an example here, Mike, and I'm curious if you have anything that you would share. I always tell folks when we're doing our coaching sessions, and in the beginning, they're trying to get it worked out, and we're doing our ongoing coaching, and I say, those family recipes that get handed down from generation to generation?
Yep.
And there's always a secret ingredient that they won't tell anybody else, right?
Yeah.
And I say, the secret ingredient in IBC is regular monthly loan repayments.
Boy, howdy.
That it is so simple and yet so hard. If people will make regular monthly loan repayments, and we always encourage people to set up automatic loan repayments, so it's just drawn out of your checking account, right? If people will do that, the system just hums along.
Well, I'm going to read the sentence prior to your behavior in managing the system is the most important factor in the entire equation. That's a quote, but the sentence before that says, none of the figures that you're going to see are set in concrete. They will vary with interest rates. And here's the key, how you treat your own system.
Yeah.
So your behavior is truly the most important part of this entire thing. So keep in mind, interest rates are going to go up, interest rates are going to go down, dividends are going to go up, dividends are going to go down, but your behavior. And if you go back and look at the grocery store in the book, if we're going to be the owners of our own banking system through IBC using dividend paying whole life insurance, if we take a policy loan, you just got through saying this, the most important factor is how you treat your system. So that means if you borrowed money from a conventional bank, you're going to have to pay it back. If you borrow money from your own IBC system against the policy, you're going to have to pay it back. So we talk about this over and over and over, turning the inventory. What is the inventory? Your money.
Yeah, it's your dollars.
So we got to help you through this. Sometimes those are hard conversations with our clients. We will ask them directly, how's your policy loan repayments going? Sometimes it's ugly.
And sometimes life happens, right? Sometimes they get a curveball thrown at them and there's a change of employment status and things like that. And that's where our coaching comes in. I mean, people who on the rare occasion where someone has not continued their policy, and I'm talking out of 1,000 clients,
right,
probably less than 5, it hasn't been because they didn't have the money. It was because of discipline.
Behavior.
We can coach people through those rough patches. That's usually pretty easy because there's so much flexibility in the policy design and all that. So, okay, Mike Everett, this is the last page of the equipment financing section. We're going to be transitioning to part 5, which is capitalizing your system and implementation on page 65. Is there anything you want to say about the equipment financing? Anything that you want to wrap up as we transition to the next?
No, I think we've hit on all cylinders. I'm telling you that. What we have to do, 4, maybe 5 podcasts on
I don't know, but
equipment financing. It seemed like it took forever.
it's good to go back through this stuff, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
All right. Well, to our listeners, thanks for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed that section on the equipment financing. There's so much information there. I mean, we reread these things so many times and still are reminded about some of these really insightful lessons that Nelson's included in here for us. So that'll wrap up the equipment financing. We'll head to part 5, capitalizing your system and implementation next. Thank you for joining us. Check us out at lifesuccesslegacy.com. Lots of resources there, our learning kit, multiple books, other podcasts. We've been doing these podcasts, I think, since 2016.
Wow.
Right. And
I laugh every time I tell the story. So some of the people who listen to us know me well enough now to go. And I remember when Crawford comes and says, "Hey, you know, we need to do podcasts." And I go, "Dude, nobody listens to these podcasts. This is a really, really dumb idea." And then we did our first 3 podcasts, and Mike Crawford came back and he goes, "Well, we had 60 people listen to the podcast from 30 different states." And I go, "Man, weren't these podcasts a great idea?"
Crawford,
Yeah.
he's got some gray matter going on up there.
We have a little fun doing these things.
We do. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you on our next episode.